Prasanna Venkatesh. Today my topic is about introduction to inflation. In this topic, I'm going to cover basic concepts of inflation, types of inflation, measurement of inflation, tools to control over inflation in Indian economy, countries under inflation in past. First, we will go to basic concepts of inflation. Money supply. Inflation occurs when there is too much money in circulation chasing too few goods and services. An increase in the money supply can cause an increase in the demand for goods and services, leading to higher prices. Demand and supply. The demand for goods and services can also contribute to inflation. When demand for goods and services outstrips supply, prices tend to rise. Next, we will go to types of inflation. Demand pull inflation. This type of inflation occurs when the demand for goods and services exceeds the supply, leading to an increase in prices. It typically occurs during a period of economic growth when consumer confidence is high and people have more disposable income to spend. Next, cost push inflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is an increase in production cost such as wages, raw materials and energy costs. As the cost of production increases, producers pass on the cost to consumers by raising prices, which leads to inflation. And next we will go to built-in inflation. This type of inflation occurs when inflationary expectations become embedded in the economy, causing workers to demand higher wages and business to increase prices to maintain their profit margins. It becomes a self-perpetuating cycle that it is difficult to break. Next, we will go to hyperinflation. This type of inflation occurs when prices rise at an extremely high rate, typically over 50% per month. It is usually caused by a rapid increase in the money supply, such as during wars or political instability, leading to loss of confidence in the currency. Next, we will go to stagflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is high inflation combined with low economic growth and high unemployment. It is a difficult situation for policymakers to address since traditional methods of controlling inflation, such as raising interest rates, may worsen the economic slowdown. Creeping inflation. This type of inflation is a gradual increase in the price level over time, typically less than 5% per year. It is generally considered a moderate and manageable form of inflation. Next, we will go to measurement of inflation. How we measure the inflation? By Consumer Price Index (CPI). The CPI is a measurement of the average change over time in the prices paid by consumers for a basket of goods and services. It is calculated by collecting data on the price of a representative basket of goods and services and calculating the percentage change in the average price of the basket over time. The CPI is used to track changes in the cost of living and is often used to adjust salaries and benefits for inflation. Next, we will go to Producer Price Index (PPI). The PPI is a measure of the average change over time in the price received by producers for their goods and services. It is calculated by collecting data on the prices of a representative basket of goods and services at the wholesale level and calculating the percentage change in the average price of the basket over time. The PPI is used to track changes in the cost of production and is often used as an early indicator of changes in consumer prices. Next, we will go to gross domestic product (GDP). The GDP deflator is a measure of the average change over time in the prices of all goods and services produced in an economy. It is calculated by dividing the nominal GDP by the real GDP and multiplying by 100. The GDP deflator reflects the overall price level of the economy and is often used to compare the inflation rate of different countries. No wonder we improved our economy to fifth position by beating UK, United Kingdom. Next, we will go to personal consumption expenditure (PCE). The personal consumption expenditure is a measure of the average change over time in the prices of goods and services purchased by households. It is similar to the CPI but uses a different methodology for calculating the price changes. The PCE price index is used by the Federal Reserve to track changes in consumer price and is often used as a guide for monetary policy. Next, we will go to the topic of tools to control over the inflation in Indian economy. First, monetary policy. The RBI uses monetary policy tools such as the REPO rate, reverse REPO rate, cash reserve ratio (CRR), and statutory liquidity ratio (SLR) to control inflation. When inflation is high, the RBI may increase the REPO rate, which increases the cost of borrowing and reduces spending, leading to a decrease in demand and prices. Fiscal policy. The government can also use fiscal policy tools such as taxes and government spending to control the inflation. The government can increase taxes or reduce spending to reduce demand and prices. Next, open market operations. The RBI uses open market operations to regulate the money supply in the economy. OMO involves the buying and selling of government securities in the open market. When inflation is high, the RBI may sell government securities to reduce the money supply and control inflation. Next, exchange rate policy. The RBI can use exchange rate policy to control inflation by increasing or decreasing the value of the Indian rupee. A stronger rupee can reduce the cost of imports and reduce inflation, while a weaker rupee can increase the cost of imports and increase inflation. No wonder why in this time uh, we are converting all the trades into rupee. It is an initiative taken by the Modi government. Hope we will see what happens next. At last, we are going to some countries undergone inflation in past. Zimbabwe experienced hyperinflation in the last 2000s with inflation rates reaching over 500 billion% at their peak. Venezuela has experienced ongoing hyperinflation since 2016 with inflation rates reaching over 1 million% in 2019. Argentina has history of inflation with hyperinflation in the late 1980s and 1990s. In recent times, inflation rates have remained high with rates exceeding 50% in 2019. Iran has experienced high inflation rates in recent times with rates exceeding 40% in 2019. Turkey experienced high inflation rates in the 1990s and early 2000s. In 2018, inflation rates peaked at over 2.5%. Brazil. Brazil experienced high inflation rates in the 1980s and early 1990s. More recently, inflation rates have remained high with rates exceeding 10% in 2015. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.